Welcome to Washington, sir.
Pleasure to be here.
What's your mission on this visit? What are your priorities?
Well, of course, today is an important day in New Zealand's diplomatic calendar. It's the Pacific Day event that we hold annually here in Washington, a day in which we invite the diplomatic representatives of our Pacific friends, our partners in Australia, and of course the US, to focus on that vast expanse of ocean that New Zealand resides within, and for which we try and take responsibility with Australia for the stability and security of the region, including much of the development work within the region. So this has become a high priority of the New Zealand government, therefore Pacific Day is a higher priority event in our calendar.
Do you think the Americans are engaged in the Pacific at the level that the region deserves and would like? And if not, what more could we do?
Well, I think this is on a good trajectory.
Yes.
We've seen very strong statements from the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, about re-engagement in the region. Kurt Campbell, of course, has been a remarkable champion for the American role within the Pacific. And it's been a great pleasure to work with both the Secretary of State and the Assistant Secretary, as the US has stated much higher ambitions for engagement within the region and then gone about acting those ambitions out. Yeah. The opening of the US Aid Office in Port Moresby is, I think, a strong signal. We've been able to develop some partnerships in the development space, and I talked in my remarks today about one where in probably the most significantly challenged place in the Pacific, Kiribati, New Zealand and the US are in partnership on a solid waste management package there. So look, I think this is an evolving engagement on the US part, and one we find very valuable.
You mentioned two very strong personalities that have provided great leadership on the American side, Hillary Clinton and Kurt Campbell. Is American engagement sustainable beyond those personalities?
Oh, I think so, and what we've discovered in the US system is that there's a great interest in the events that are unfolding. I think there's significant pride in the US growing presence within the region. Certainly there's a sense of gratitude in response from the Pacific nations. So I think that the leadership we have seen is going to stick.
During your term, the US-New Zealand relationship seems to have gone from good to just great, actually. Would you share that perception, and
Yeah.
How did it happen?
Well, I think it's the result of a lot of good work that's been done by a lot of good people on both sides over a fair period of time, and I've been fortunate enough to be in the chair as some of these things have come together. The Wellington Declaration, which Hillary Clinton and I signed in Wellington, is a significant document, not because it contains a good deal of detail, but because it contains a good element of intent about partnership. And while there have been some difficulties that everyone knows about in the defence cooperation area in particular, I've just talked in my remarks today about the fact that we've got Marines coming down to New Zealand and a Marine band, not just to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the US presence during World War II, and to give New Zealanders a chance to express their profound gratitude for that, but also to do exercises with our people on the ground. These things are now commonplace. So these things can't happen, and they can't be sustained unless there's a strong sense, a strong consensus on both sides that we want to do it. And I have this strong belief that the momentum that's been created is just going to continue.
Is trade and investment an important balancer to that advancing that security relationship, and what are we doing on that?
Well, we've made no secret of the fact that advancing the Trans-Pacific Partnership discussions is a high priority for our government. Trade and economic outcomes were always the number one priority for our government, and the fact that we've experienced an earthquake in Christchurch that's wiped out 10% of our GDP has meant we've had to start playing some catch-up. Now, trading relationships become profoundly important in that respect. I mentioned earlier that China is now our number two trading partner.
Yes.
We have a free trade agreement with China. It's been very good for both of our economies, and I think that the fact that the US is involved in the TPP discussions has got to be very good, not just for us bilaterally, but for the wider region that's engaged.
Well, I have a question about that. If you're using regional organizations, it seems we all are using regional organizations to include China and include the partners around the Asia Pacific in new security, political discussions. But what about trade? China is not a member of the TPP. Could they be? When do you see that in the future?
Yeah, and look, we've made the point to the Chinese. I was in Beijing just a couple of weeks ago, and of course they raise their eyebrows and say to us, well, what is the story with TPP? And I made the point quite openly, it is not an exclusive arrangement. There's an invitation there for anyone who wants to meet the standards that have been set. And for those who say, well, China couldn't do that, well, people once said China couldn't possibly complete a high-quality free trade agreement with a developed nation like New Zealand, and they've surprised everyone, and it's worked well for both of us.
Well, I wish you every bit of luck and a good meeting with Secretary Clinton tomorrow. Thank you for spending some time with us.
Great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Cheers.